Hello class, this is part 2 of the video that will provide a tutorial for module 3 of the class. In this particular part we're going to look at the sensitivity analysis question 2 and use the solver function in Excel. So the first thing the assignment says is open solver with sensitivity, review the scenario at the top, and you can see if you read the scenario that the business owner has 3 different options for his catering service, and he would like to use each of the 3 options basically depending on the scenario, and we're going to figure out for him which option provides, which combination of options gives him the maximum total profit. So it then says that you have to enter the formulas into the solver table. And the formulas are in this orange cell right here because this is what solver is going to maximize is total profit with constraints based on labor hours, pounds of coffee, and boxes of cups. So these have to be formulas for solver to vary based on the data. So total profit calculation is going to be option number of times to offer times profit for event plus this times profit for event, and option C times profit per event. So this is how many events, this is the profit per event, and you're going to enter the formula for that. I will show you how to do this for the first field, and then I'll just populate the others so I don't create such a long video. But basically you go into this field, you say equals, which means you're putting a formula in, and you say this, press times that, and then you're going to add this times this field. And then you're going to add option C times profit for event. Press enter, and you see this formula right here, which results in that field. And then I will do the same thing down here and show you my result. So the total labor hours used based on each option, I put the equal sign in and I say number of times I'm going to run that option times this labor hour plus number of times I will use that option times this many labor hours plus number of times for this option times labor hours here. Press enter, and that's the total labor hours for all 3 options combined. And that's going to be a constraint, obviously, depending on how many employees you have and based on available hours. You're not going to be able to go over 2,000. That's why you're calculating total labor hours. Otherwise, if you think about this intuitively, you would always use option C because it has the most profit. But option C would go above the available resources you have. So it's going to have to require options that have less profit. So that's basically how this is working. So as you can see, I walk through how to populate this formula based on labor hours times each option. I did the same for pounds of coffee. Option A times pounds of coffee, option B times pounds, option C times pounds. And I did the same thing for boxes of cups, number of option A times each of the box of cups. They get this formula. You should study that for a second, make sure you understand that, how I populated that. So now I'm going to set up the Excel solver to calculate the combinations of data that'll obtain the most profit. So I go up to the top, I select data, I go over to the right and I select solver, and it'll bring up the solver screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is set the objective. What am I trying to calculate for the best outcome? And in this case, it is total profit, F12, and I want to maximize it. Then it'll say by changing what variables. And the variables you're changing are the number of times to offer each option. So I say that'll be C11 through E11, just verifying. You should always verify each one. And then I come down here, subject to what constraints. And my constraints I will add based on the assignment. If you read it, it says number of times to offer can't be more than 50. So I say that cell reference has to be less than or equal to 50. And I add it. Then I say that cell reference has to be less than or equal to 50. So I add it. And this cell reference must be less than or equal to 50. So I press OK. And then it'll go back to the other solver screen, and you'll see those in there. Now, there are additional constraints for resources. It says constraints, but this could also say resources, because those are your resource constraints. And I'll say that I want to add more. And so I want this parameter to be less than or equal to that parameter. So I add that, and I want this parameter to be less than or equal to this parameter. So I add that. I said, okay, I should have clicked add so I could put a third one in. So I need to go back and add and put the third one in for this parameter to be less than or equal to that parameter, so that you don't use more resources than you have as far as manpower and inventory of coffee and cups. As you can see, this is a very valuable tool for analyzing this type of data. So now I have my solver populated as shown. One thing to realize, if you notice the changing cells C11 to E11 right here in the spreadsheet is correct. What it says in the learning module instructions is not correct, because it says use F17 to E17, which are kind of random as far as trying to solve this problem. So please use this video for instructions on which cells you should be using instead of the learning module instructions. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve the problem, and it does say use simplex LP model to do this, so we will select that, and that's based on the solving methods shown below as to which is most appropriate for the type of data. And then we will click on solve. As you can see, it populates what we asked it to vary, option A, B, and C, in order to get the most total profit and to make sure that we don't exceed our resources. So we used maximum labor hours, we didn't use the maximum pounds of coffee, and we did not use the maximum boxes of cups. But since we couldn't exceed labor hours, then some other things might have fallen short. Now, if you were going to say, hey, I want even more profits, so I'm going to increase the number of labor hours available, hire more people, I'm going to basically use all my pounds of coffee and use all my boxes of cups and make even more profit by hiring more people, then you'd have to do a cost trade on the cost of those labor hours versus the increased profit. So that would present itself with another dimension of the solver, which you could do if you were very creative in order to figure out how to maximize your profit by hiring more employees. But right now it also says option A used all 50 occurrences. Option B used all 50 occurrences, and option C used only 17 occurrences, and this is what our total profit came out to be. The next thing you will do is look at the sensitivity report. Once the solver tells you that it found a valid solution, you'll say keep solver results, and then you'll look at the reports that it can generate by pressing OK, and then you will explain to your boss in the box here what the sensitivity report is saying. In other words, what variables is the profit most sensitive on, such that if you change them, you will make the most significant changes to the profit. So I will leave that up to you, and then we will go into the what if analysis. And I will do that in part 3 of this video to try to keep them all at around 10-minute increments. So have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.